According to the CDC, 26% of adults in the U.S. have some type of disability. That's more than 1 in 4, or 61 million people. So as an increasingly popular saying goes, disability is diversity. But while diversity, equity, and inclusion are usually at or near the top of the list of priorities for the industry, disability does not command nearly the same attention. So our guests are here to raise awareness of that issue and the importance of web accessibility. And I'm pleased to welcome Rafi Glantz, Partner Success Team Captain at accessiBe.
Hi.
And Dr. Hoby Wedler, chemist, entrepreneur, and co-founder of SensePoint.
Hey guys, how's it going, Rafi?
Hey, Hoby.
Thanks, John. Good to be here.
All right. Great to have you both. All right, let's get into it. So the first question goes to both of you. Before we get into what web accessibility is and why it's so important for agencies and their clients, I have to ask, how is it possible for this issue to not be as top of mind as it should be when more than 1 in 4 American adults have some kind of disability?
Yeah, you bring up a really, really good point. And honestly, we've kind of seen it reflected here today in the audience.
Yeah.
Nobody that I've spoken to throughout this whole conference yesterday of all of 12 hours, which have been amazing, nobody said, hey, I don't care about people with disabilities.
I don't like
matter.
blind people.
Right. No, nobody said that. But also, probably 90% of the agencies we've spoken to had no idea that websites needed to be accessible to people with disabilities. Because it's just not something you come across.
I think it's invisible. You don't see that there are many people, 26% of people trying to access your website who are going to have trouble with it. So it's like one of these things that because we don't see it all the time, we don't think about it. What I find all the time, Rafi, is that I'm blind. My cane didn't give it away when I was coming up here. I really feel like because I'm blind, people I interact with understand and care about accessibility. And we find this to be the case in general. If someone has a family member with a disability, they're going to care about it and they're going to focus on it. But if not, it's so easily forgotten. And I think that's why this problem exists, is because it's not top of mind that, hey, this website, this great website that attracts a lot of customers every day is totally useless when you're blind or when you have fine motor skills or epilepsy or whatever the case may be. And it really is a discriminatory thing that we don't even think about because we don't see it.
All right, so thanks, Hoby. And Rafi, so then just explain to everybody what web accessibility actually is and why it is so important for everybody.
For sure. And I don't want to get in the weeds here because honestly, I'm not a developer, so you don't want to hear what I have to say about the technical side. But what I will say is that you need a ramp for your stairs. You need a ramp for your website. There are different ramps for different kinds of assistive technologies and disabilities. Let's say you're blind, like our friend Hoby over here. You'll probably use a screen reader, which is going to read out the content on the website to you. Problem is, you have to make the website work with that screen reader. Some of that is as easy as alt text, right? And everybody here uses alt text for SEO. Some of it's a lot more complex. And so rather than have retraining for all the developers and have everybody spend 20 grand on accessibility per website.
That's what it costs.
Yeah, and Hoby, you know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't you tell us how that conversation goes with a client? Because you have clients as an agency. How does it go when you tell someone they need to spend $2,500 a month on accessibility alone?
It goes, I don't think so.
Right.
And why I love these folks at accessiBe, these guys are literally the best of both worlds, man. They provide an inexpensive, affordable solution to accessibility so that my clients, also websites I like to visit, are available to me and accessible to me. And they make the internet possible for me to surf. I mean, if you think about it, I do use a screen reader every day. And I mean, I used computers 16 hours a day getting my Ph.D. in organic chemistry, but there's still, I would say, well over half the websites out there I can't even deal with. Useless.
And in the end, that is direct discrimination, right? Because these people, everybody wants equal access, and they have money available, and none of us business people would ever consider doing that on purpose physically. If you owned a jewelry store and somebody in a wheelchair couldn't get in through your security door, you don't lock the door and make coffee and laugh at him. You run outside and try to sell this guy a diamond. There's no reason we wouldn't do that online. And that's what we want to make possible. Forgive me for saying, we make accessibility accessible in price.
There you go.
Great name. So just So what does it take for a brand's website to be ADA compliant?
So it can get really complex just because the laws are not as clear as they should be, but there are a couple of really easy ways to go about it. So right now I have to tell everybody, please scan this QR code and check if your website's accessible. It's going to take you about 15 seconds. We have a free website scanner. You put in your website's homepage, and it will tell you, hey, you're 80% there, you're 60% there, you're 0% there, get to work. Something like that. So that's a good idea, but what it really is testing, right? It's engaging with the community. So if you have a person with disabilities testing your website every 6 months or every year, that is beyond a shadow of a doubt more than a reasonable effort. And it shows
such an easy thing to do.
It really is, and it shows that you're putting forth holistic efforts towards being accessible and being inclusive. And so even if somebody does come to you with a lawsuit or a complaint, you have a very strong case to make that, hey, we're making best efforts. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We'll work harder.
And the other thing that I would just quickly add there is that the WCAG, or the WCAG, is thousands of pages of technical information. As we heard from Lindsay at Sunday dinner yesterday, who wants to sort through huge reports of data and information? The best way to do it is to use a tool like the one you see up here with the QR code, or ask someone like me or anyone with a disability to just take a look at your site.
So I think everybody's had time to do scans. Can we raise our hands if we have an accessible website? If you got 100%, please raise your hand. And that's why we're here.
I don't see that many hands.
The AdAge editor, the AdAge editor is in the same. Oh man, why didn't I check before this panel? But no, it does bring up it's a great point, Rafi. Thank you for doing that and for sharing the QR code. And it also raises the question: is this mandatory? We're talking about ADA compliance.
The answer is yes.
There you go.
The answer is most definitely yes.
We can give you all kinds of statutes and details, but bottom line, if you have a website, it needs to be accessible to everybody.
You got it.
Yeah, it's even if it wasn't the law, it's discrimination. Like nobody wants to be involved in discrimination in 2022 that I'm familiar with or that I want to spend time with.
EJ, you better slack Kevin Skaggs immediately. On that. Thanks, Jess. All right. So let's just talk about some positive things for a second.
Yeah.
So, Hoby, just tell us a little bit more in depth about the benefits of web accessibility and ADA compliance for both brands and their customers.
I mean, to me, it's very simple. It's a matter of someone being able to access your brand versus not access your brand. And the example that I like to give about accessible websites is like, imagine we could see the discrimination without an accessible website. So like I want to go get a burrito at Taco Bell. Not that I eat Taco Bell a lot. Let's just say I did. I walk up to Taco Bell, and, there's a whole bunch of people trying to get in. Everybody gets in. They see me, they're like, no, dude, you're blind. Sorry, stay outside. No food for you. That's what it feels like when I try to go buy something online or seek information online, and the website I go to isn't accessible. It's like, okay, well, I'm never going to go to that site again. And then the other thing that's so amazing is community. How many brands want to build community around their brand? The disabled community is a big group of us who talk, who communicate, who share positive resources. And if I say, hey, you should check out this so-and-so's website, it's totally accessible, I use it every day, I'm going to get probably 10 of my friends to do the same thing, and it just is such a powerful thing. So utilizing the community, and really, like I said, accessiBe opens two huge doors for me, because I do get to sell their service, and my clients have no problem understanding, yeah, I need to be accessible. Yeah, I should use this service that I can actually afford, $49 a month, and it makes their websites accessible. The other thing is, every accessiBe website, I know how to navigate, because I know accessiBe, and I understand how it works, so it really levels the playing field when it comes to accessibility. And so for brands, for clients of brands, for people visiting websites of your clients, man, it's just, it seals the deal for them. It's something they can do, and your clients are going to see that they are getting plenty more customers.
So, Rafi, could you walk us through the process of what it actually takes? Like, how heavy of a lift would it be for a brand to make their websites web accessible?
So for most websites, it'll take between 3 and 5 minutes to become accessible.
So why the $2,500 a month? Where did that come from?
So until us, web accessibility was a really heavy lift because there are two main problems here. There's not a good place to get educated about accessibility if you want to be an ADA developer. There's like a few things distributed around the internet, but there's not one good resource to learn what you need to learn and trust it. And then the other problem is if you're doing everything manually, it's not a one-time fix. It's every time you make an update to your website, you add a blog post, you add an image, anything, you have
remember.
Exactly. You have to make it accessible. And I mean, I have a partner that I work with. They're in the automotive space. They had to build a CMS that didn't allow people to upload images without alt text, and they still had to get an accessibility solution with us, of course, because there are too many moving parts. So the moving parts, the number of things that need to be done, that's why it usually costs so much manually.
Absolutely.
Really, for even a small website, you're looking at $15,000 a year. With us, it's $50 a month. If you have a really, really big website with a lot of traffic, don't worry, we'll charge you more. But for most people, we want accessibility to be accessible because we have literally at least 20 people a day who come into our funnel talking to our SDRs. Wow, this mic does work if I hold it close enough. Sorry about that. And they've never heard of web accessibility before the day before when they got sued for it.
Exactly.
And that's the situation we want to stop from happening because nobody wins in that. The community of people with disabilities is not an aggressive, litigious community that just wants to take your money. They want to buy your products. They want to participate in the economy just like everybody else. And most businesses have no idea that they're being not inclusive, that they're actively excluding people.
Let me just throw one more thing out there that's such a positive for accessiBe, and the reason that I love it and use it all the time and recommend that my clients use it all the time. Let's just say someone finds a bug in what they're using accessiBe for. Maybe a heading doesn't show up correctly or there's a small issue. Well, if I'm hard coding your website and you tell me about that, I'm going to say, okay, let's look into how we can fix this and take a bunch of time doing that and fix that one glitch. Okay, great. Now your website, at least for now, doesn't have that glitch. If accessiBe does exactly the same amount of work, every single one of their websites that they serve now doesn't have that glitch. So it's one of these things where because it's automated, we can help so many people with so much less work.
You know what? I think we actually have to go back for a second, and I apologize because I just realized I didn't really tell you what the tool is 100%. So, of course, if you're on that website and you're scanning, you can use it and test it out. But very briefly, it's a little widget that lets every visitor to your website customize their experience without impacting anybody else's. So if somebody has an epilepsy or seizure-related disorder, they can pause any animations. If they have trouble seeing things up close, they can make the fonts bigger. There's a lot more adjustments. I invite everybody to test it out. It's a lot of fun, actually.
So, Hoby, you were talking a little bit before. We have just a couple of minutes left. But you were talking a little bit before about what it's like when you hit a website that is not web accessible.
Right.
What is the experience like for you as a blind person when you find one that is web accessible?
It's a breath of fresh air. When I go to a website that's accessible, it's like I can see exactly what's going on. I can read what images are about. I can actually make a purchase. Let me tell you a story. Some websites have just, that are hard-coded to be accessible are perfect. And I can look at them and, oh, this is all great. And I can make a purchase, get it in my cart, get all the way to the checkout page. So now I'm like 10 minutes in. And the last step, the checkout button, isn't accessible. Like, when that is fixed, and I know that when I invest 10, 12, 15 or more minutes into my experience, into a task that I'm accomplishing on the web, and I can rest assured that I'll be able to complete it successfully, that's peace of mind. That's a breath of fresh air. And I really feel like accessibility from a website perspective, from a getting into a building perspective, because they're just the same, is really a right of anyone with a disability.
Well, that's great. Rafi, just in the few seconds that we have, thank you, Hoby. That was great. Thank you. In the few seconds we have left, can you just share any best practices that people can take other than going to the web, scanning and QR code? Please walk them through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing that everybody here can do as agencies, because agencies are going to be the change makers in this space. The individual business owners, they want to be on top of stuff, but they're busy running their business. It's our responsibility as agency people to let them know about things like this. So what we try to do with all of our new partners is give you the option to put everybody on a trial, let them have it on their website, and tell them you have 30 days to decide whether you're in or out. If you're out, you better sign this waiver, because I'm not going to be liable for your refusal to be inclusive. If you're in, this is what that looks like. And within 30 days, the agency's risk is 0, and the client should be accessible. That's the goal. And if anybody gives you an objection, talk to me, because if they think $50 a month is too much for 5 to 10% more clients, they have a bigger problem in their business than accessibility.
You know it. One of the things that I would just close with here is to say that as we think about sort of this new age, this age where so much more is done on the internet, the ADA takes a different form. You know, we need to really think about how can we make life more accessible from a digital perspective. So during the pandemic, I live with a sighted partner, so I was actually okay. But a lot of my blind friends found themselves, trying to access things that they would normally access by going to a store online, and it didn't work. They were literally having a hard time simply, getting access to goods and services that they needed because of inaccessibility of websites. And if you have any questions about accessibility, if you want to talk about this, want someone to come in and help you talk to your clients and get them excited about accessibility, link into me, reach out to me. No one's a stranger. I want to get to know each and every one of you. And by the way, just want you to know, if you have a little too much fun at the after party, I'm happy to be your designated driver.
Thank you guys so much. Rafi Glantz and Hoby Wedler, thank you.